Well, hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Early Childhood Chats podcast. My name is Andy Roszak, and thank you so much for joining us today. Today, we're going to be talking about something I think that's kind of interesting. We're talking about really a thing that sits at the intersection of early childhood education and technology. And we'll be talking about cameras in childcare settings. So I've got a really good friend here, Kevin, who I've met and seen at a couple conferences. We seem to chase each other around the country lately.
Yep.
But Kevin's going to be talking about, what is this technology? What are these cameras doing? Why are programs adopting it? What do parents think about it? And where is the industry kind of as a whole heading in all of this? So whether you're a director that's been curious about adding cameras, or a parent who's got some questions about how these systems work, or just thinking overall about quality and transparency and data capture in our early childhood environment, I think this conversation was going to be pretty interesting for you. So I'm super excited to say hi to Kevin Wright from Watch Me Grow. Kevin, say hi to everybody. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me, Andy. I really appreciate it. Looking forward to the conversation. But again, Kevin with Watch Me Grow.
So Kevin, tell folks, how did you get in this space? How did you find yourself over at Watch Me Grow? What's kind of your origin story behind all of this?
Yeah, no, actually, been with Watch Me Grow for just about a year now, but been in the early childhood education space for close to 6 years now. So spent the bulk of my time with a childcare management platform. So really got a really good experience with talking with centers, talking with owners, working with parents and things like that. Really, really fell in love with the industry. But had the opportunity to join the Watch Me Grow team around a year ago this time. And I came in actually just as the merger between PB&J TV and Watch Me Grow joined forces. So PB&J TV and Watch Me Grow, being both the two industry leaders when it came to video technology, joining forces. So again, that is bringing a lot of different technology and features, all rolled up into one to better serve the industry. But Watch Me Grow has been around for a long time now, strictly focused on video technology in the early childhood education. So, really it comes down to just why I love what I do, and is the impact that this technology can make on centers, what it can do for owners, and the benefits it can provide your directors, but also to see the impact on families. So very fortunate enough to be with Watch Me Grow, and a lot of really good things to come.
Well, and we've talked about it a couple of times when we've been together. One of the great things I love about Watch Me Grow, it's not some other kind of outside entity or industry trying to kind of wedge its way into early childhood.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys are really born and bred, and this is your this is your home base here. You guys deal with early childhood.
Yep.
I don't want to say exclusively, but certainly a large percent of your clients. So you know the industry, you know the needs, you know the challenges. And I think that's really helpful because you can really speak to, how is this going to truly work in my childcare program or my Head Start program?
Yeah, that's exactly, absolutely right. And it really, again, we are solely focused on this industry, nothing else. So we are, in line with the day-to-day of what's happening in the centers, and what can, the concerns and things like that around the industries and folks day to day. So yeah, we are exclusively, we do have, some verticals on the other side, but yeah, Watch Me Grow totally focused on the early childhood education industry.
I love it. So like you talk to Kevin, you actually have someone that knows what in the world goes on in the programs every day,
Right.
which really is great, especially when you're, in an advisory role, thinking about how would a system work for this particular location and those types of things. So
Right.
I guess I'll kind of put it to you here. What exactly is Watch Me Grow? How do you describe the system? How do you describe kind of the whole platform? Like help people get a little oriented here about what exactly it is you're selling and offering.
Yeah, absolutely. At a simple level, Watch Me Grow is a video platform built specifically for childcare. We integrate with commercial grade cameras, but we also install those cameras throughout centers, common areas, playgrounds, and those feeds are only able to be viewed by authorized users. So For a parent, when parents ask about Watch Me Grow, it's simply usually, where we come into play. It typically is when a child is checked in. Parents are able to view that feed through their phone, not constantly, but when they need reassurance or they just want to feel connected, that's where Watch Me Grow can come into play. For directors and over, it's a fully operational tool. They can view classrooms, review footage, and pull clips as needed. So just making sure that their everyday is running smoothly in the way it should be. The key difference, from consumer cameras you see out there, your Ring, your Nest, is that we're purpose built for childcare. Secure access controls is hugely important. Long-term video retention for compliance. Compliance is a huge issue and concern in the childcare industries, like most of the viewers will probably say. But we're built for that. But we can also manage, what these users and what they see at a granular level. So it becomes part of a rhythm. Parents check in. Directors use it for oversight and get more uncomfortable, with just another tool in their environment.
Well, I got to think that, if you're doing any kind of professional development or coaching or training, this can really be helpful. And not, again, to say like, hey, Big Brother's watching me, but really to point out, areas for improvement, right? Hey, we look at this behavior and let's walk through this, almost like the telestrator from the football games, right? What if I went this way? What would you do, or whatever?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm so glad you brought that up, because that is one thing that I love talking with folks, through demo conversations, or more importantly, being on, the conference floor, talking with owners, directors, is, that it's, you have your parent viewing side, you have, your admin only, but what we're seeing this tool, and this will probably go with kind of where, the industry may be going, is the utilizing, Watch Me Grow, the footage for empowering your teachers. I come from a family of teachers. I'm very passionate about that. My wife is the greatest teacher in the world. And I often talk about, when observations are happening, it's more of a, it's sudden or it's planned. It's, different situations where when you're in the classroom, especially with early education, a teacher may be doing a million different jobs. You got children, you're trying to, corral everybody. There's a lot going on. But what these cameras allow you to do is, again, it's not the gotcha moment trying to find out what you're doing wrong. Let's use this for the better, where you can go to that teacher and say, hey, I've watched you the last couple of days. You're doing phenomenal. I saw how you interacted with his children. I saw that there was a disruption in the classroom. The way you handled it was best in class. So let's use that footage for best practice when we're doing a training, or a lead teacher wants to really work with, newer folks coming in. So let's take this technology, a little bit further and use it. I'm a coach, like you said, for hockey, and we're not watching film to say you shouldn't have made that pass or taken that shot. It's, hey, you're doing really doing well, and hey, the other players, let's see what they're doing and let's try to replicate that. So you're creating best practices. And again, you can't be in every classroom. You can't have eyes in every classroom. Cameras do support that.
Oh, absolutely. Boy, as a former left winger, I like the hockey analogy. That's good. I like it.
Oh, yeah. Buffalo, New York, where it's a hockey town.
That's true. Growing up in Chicago, we had a pretty good hockey town, too.
Oh, yeah.
Now I'm in D.C., we got a good hockey town. Although, if Ovi retires or leaves, who knows, right? So
yeah, that could be tough.
We are in playoff season after all. So talk a little bit about kind of parents. And before I was a parent, I was a dog owner, and when I would drop my dog off at doggy daycare, one of the things I always liked was to check in on Mr. Henry and see how he was doing. Bless his soul, he's no longer with us, but but gosh, that hasn't been around, 20, 30 years. This is kind of a newer phenomenon. Are you finding parents are like, wow, how come I can check on my dog anytime I want, but my little ones, I don't have a camera, I can't check on. Is there some kind of expectation now with the parents out there, like I should be able to have that kind of same transparency and access, or where are you
Yes.
seeing the industry go with all this stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. And it comes down to some of those conversations, with the directors and owners is, if you are utilizing cameras, are you allowing parents to view? And there's two sides of it. It's definitely a conversation that can go both ways. But I think it's understanding, the message and, the why of why you would allow parents to view. And we actually are going to be releasing some research that we've done that will show that, a new family that is looking for childcare in their area, will gravitate to a center that offers parent viewing.
Hmm.
So, we actually, see that the bulk of our customers, are parent viewing. And again, for parents, it's peace of mind, especially in
Hmm.
those new families. The first few weeks of leaving your child somewhere can be tough. You're dropping off your most precious, your most valuable, thing you have, and you want to, have that peace of mind. Cameras shorten that trust and curve it, significantly. So we also that is huge, and we'll release that here coming up. But yeah, we're finding that parents want, that transparency and the ability to view their child. Now, that also comes with great responsibility for the centers. So what we and Watch Me Grow can provide these centers utilizing our platform is that secure access. And it's not necessarily viewing the parent viewing all day, every day. Those centers actually can customize schedules,
Hmm.
for these parents. So you can allow parents to view certain windows of the day, certain times, of the week. Maybe you have an event coming up, or you have one classroom is, has a circle time. Maybe you want parents to come in and be able to view that. So we want to make that very clear that, it's not, creating that chaos of allowing parents to come in and look at different things. Again, we'll customize that with you. What's the best time for you to allow viewing to those parents, but also, educating the parents on why you're doing that. So, but we've also, seen, a spike when it comes to programs that, do offer the parent viewing is, again, enrollment boosts, retention, stays, in the positive. And again, you're showing, and one conversation I had with a local multi-location here in the area is they're using Watch Me Grow, and I simply asked why. And they said, we use cameras, we use Watch Me Grow, we have nothing to hide. We want everybody to see what we're doing. So I thought that was pretty interesting to hear. But yeah, there's a lot of different advantages, especially with the parent viewing size. We see that kind of growing because those newer families, want to be able to stay connected. And the average viewing time really for a parent is less than a minute a day or a
Oh,
week.
wow.
It's not that significant.
Yeah.
So
That's probably a
again, it's
misconception, right? I feel like most people think, oh,
yeah,
I can
yeah.
just
You want to be able
watch it
to,
all day, right?
have the ability to go in there and check, get peace of mind, saying, little Kevin's doing great. I feel good. I'm moving on.
Yeah. Well, especially like you think, oh gosh, it was a real hard drop off. There was tears flowing. There's clingy, all this stuff. Like,
Oh yeah,
how's he
yeah,
or she doing now? Has she gotten into the routine, settled down, and it,
yeah.
adjusted? And yeah, I suppose that would be so. That's interesting because I feel like most people, when you say camera, like, oh gosh, that's the last thing I want is parents watching me and nitpicking me and micromanage me all day, every day. They'll have it up on their second monitor at work and just be staring. Why is she doing that?
Right,
Why is she doing that? But it sounds like the data says that's not really the case.
right. Yeah, absolutely. It's starting to show that, parents, want that peace of mind of being able to view. And again, it's for us as Watch Me Grow, talking with directors and owners that want to know. I just spoke before we jumped on with a prospect that is wants to know what parameters and you can put around parent viewing, and just simply understanding, what they're looking for and putting them at ease is, yeah, it's not like your typical come in, view every little place, all the whole facility. It's really just where your child, what classroom they're in. You only have, the ability to view there.
Yeah.
And again, it's going to be customized.
Well, and I would guess, not to put words in your mouth, but I would guess part of that kind of onboarding, support that you provide is what are about the placements of these cameras? Do I really want every
Yes.
parent having camera views into the bathroom and all this crazy stuff, or is leading
Yeah.
practice more to restrict? I mean, you can still have it, but maybe we don't put it publicly restricted or certain times
Yeah.
a day or whatever have you, right? So,
Yeah, absolutely. And that is a question does come up often is, where Watch Me Grow, where we come into play. And like I mentioned earlier, is in most cases, if you have cameras, we can integrate, which again is a simple transition there, but also we will actually facilitate the installation side of it. So if you are new to cameras, we will pair up and partner with local installers, most likely in your area. You may have some familiarity with them. We'll come on site, take a look at the classroom sizes. We may suggest one camera, maybe two. In situations where if a room has a blind spot, we'll make suggestions. We have a project team, excellent. I love our projects team. They're fantastic. They'll actually look at diagrams, fire escape, plans to pinpoint where's the best placement of that camera to get the best view. So we'll work with you on that. We'll make suggestions. And again, we will support the onboarding experience where we will walk you through every little detail. That is customizing your schedules, getting that permission-based user authorization. So yeah, we will support you in every aspect when it comes to implementing Watch Me Grow.
no, I love it. And I got to say, I go to a lot of programs and it seems like they'll either have cameras on the outside or cameras on the inside. And I don't often find programs that have both. And I think it's a big myth. I mean, I'm all about the safety and, as you know, we
Right.
do active shooter training and stuff. It's like 35% of school shootings happen in the parking lot. I want to know what's going on in my parking lot. I'd much rather realize there's a problem outside my building than when it's at my door or worse yet, in my door. So, I
Yep.
appreciate the approach you all have taken saying, yeah, I mean, the classroom's obviously a core piece. We spend the bulk of our time there. But let's not forget about what happens around our buildings, on our playgrounds and in our parking lots and those other areas too, where, we still got to protect the building and make sure after hours people aren't accessing it and all these other things that
Absolutely.
are
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah.
So it's
And
kind of
we
a
support.
holistic, approach you guys have.
Absolutely. And we support interior and exterior cameras. So when we are talking with folks that are planning out where the placement should be or what suggestions they would have to put cameras, we often say, the classroom obviously is the key, place where you'd like them, but hallways, maybe your main office, front door, parking lot, and playground. Playground is there's a lot going on in the playground. There may be, a larger playground where again there could be spots where kids can go out of view. So yeah, we will work with you on the best coverage for those areas. And again, it integrates within our platform, so you'll have access to all of these camera feeds.
Well, like most things, a lot of it comes down to finances, right? So I was going to chat a little bit about money. And I recall, I think we were together in Memphis and you were sharing kind of how some of the programs are actually using this as a little incentive, a little benefit, a little add-on service that they offer to some of their clientele as well to help defray some of the cost, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And when it comes down to um, the feature, let's say parent viewing, there are some centers that will offer it, and they'll have the bulk of their clients and families, participating in that. But there are maybe some cases where you may have, your infants and toddler groups that will have the most users viewing this. So then there's ways you can get creative as far as offsetting those costs, and that could be, charging a technology fee to your families, or if you want to have access, it's a payment that can be made to the center. So there's there's different ways to do it. Those are, obviously conversations we can have, but we want to make sure that the value is there. We provide you what the main reason you're coming to watch me grow, and that could be is, you feel like you're missing something with not having cameras, and you're missing something with having a do-it-yourself camera system. We want to make sure we take care of that. But yeah, when it comes to, we want to work, we'll make the best, help you make the best decision in moving forward. So yeah, those are conversations we can ultimately have. And a lot of time it is the centers themselves doing something creative that we, are not involved in. But again, we're there to, be consultants and be solution providers for our clients.
I certainly think I would spend a few bucks and say, hey, I'll add on that service to have the ability to check on my child with
Yeah.
the watch me go. I mean, I think it's worthwhile, to be very honest. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so it's interesting. So what would you say are some of the big barriers or some of the myths that you see when people approach you and say, I don't want cameras because A, B, or C? What are some of the big ones that you hear all the time?
Well, there's quite a bit. I would say the most common objection that I hear is not necessarily cost, which we just talked about, and
Yeah.
that's going to be a huge factor no matter what. It's in those situations where we have cameras already. Why would we switch to Watch Me Grow? And I always try to like rephrase that and reframe the conversation to preventing crisis. I always want to kind of that key idea, because having cameras and having a system that actually protects businesses in two different things. And of course, your parent viewing and your admin only. So a parent side of it is, the center has to ask themselves, when offering parent viewing is, does your current system, can you handle the responsibility at scale? You're talking about managing potentially 100 apparent logins, making sure that family only sees the right classroom, ensuring those streams are very secure, and making the experience that actually works for, some of your non-technical, folks out there. Of course, technology can be overwhelming with folks. And again, we think we simplify that for them. That's where Watch Me Grow is fundamentally different, I believe. It's built to manage those large scale users, protect privacy, and then deliver a clean experience for families without creating chaos for those directors. So, when parents say, I'm not able to see this, or, I don't like the viewing, footage and things like that. Second, again, admin only, it shifts from, are you truly prepared if something happens? Um, do you have the right retention? Can you quickly find and export the footage? Is it secure? And more importantly, is it reliable? Um, because when something happens, and ultimately we know it will, you don't have a second chance to go and try to recapture that. So that's one situation that I recently, had a conversation with the director. Is they had cameras and they were very confident they had everything they needed. Everything was fine. Something happened. Parent raised a concern. The director went to pull that footage, and that's when everything kind of broke down.
Yeah.
Video wasn't clear. Retention wasn't what they thought it would be. And the actual clip took way longer to get than it should have. So again, that quickly turns, parents' concerns, and ended up that situation ultimately escalated. So, it's not, with that said, it's not about having cameras anymore. It's about being prepared.
Right.
The goal isn't just to record what happens, prevent, it's more, look at it as to prevent, a small issue from becoming a major crisis like that story I just said. So directors, ask the questions, cost, installation, those are all valid, but question you got to ask yourself is, are you set up to protect your staff and families? Can you respond quickly? If something does happen, and then ultimately, you don't want to be creating more work from an already busy day-to-day functions that your directors and owners and teachers have to go through. So, it's best systems just don't necessarily capture video. They reduce it, protect privacy, and ultimately take that pressure off the directors. Those are some of the, situations I come across.
And having that reliable, storage. I mean, I just like, I'm an attorney. So if something
Yeah,
bad happens and I know you got cameras at your facility and I request them through discovery, say, hey, you got cameras, let's see, what happened.
yeah,
And suddenly you can't produce it. Do you think I'm going to make a big deal of that in front of the jury? Of course, right? Like, ladies
yes,
and gentlemen, I don't know what they're hiding, but they have cameras and they claim that they work. But guess
right.
what? They couldn't provide the footage of this incident. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, like,
yeah,
even if
absolutely.
it's true and even if it is a malfunction, I'm going to lead you down that path that makes you look very foolish, right? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, Watch Me
yeah.
Grow is that, secure, easy access, and having all of those under one roof. And in those situations, it could get, when something does unfortunately happen, you want to be able to provide that confidence and clarity, for those asking.
Well, and I think, and I don't know, you're way more, way in this space more than I am, but it seems to me the tide has shifted, and I think again, leaders are used to be kind of looking at camera systems as almost punitive, but it seems like now it's more like, no, this is a training tool. This is legal protection, so we can actually show you what happened, and it's more positives than perceived negative. I don't think there really ever was a negative, but for some reason it seemed to be a negative connotation. What do you think? 5, 10 years ago, like, oh, you don't trust me? Why are you putting that camera in my classroom? What are you doing?
Yeah.
You're trying to get me and all these things. But, again, it all obviously, stems from leadership and how you introduce this to staff and your intent behind it. But it does seem like a very powerful, positive tool that can have on programs as well. Have you seen that shift? Have people kind of
Yeah.
shifted the last couple of years, you think, and seeing this more
Yeah.
for what it's worth? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you get your, some of the folks out there that again just are, against it, are hesitant to bring any type of technology,
Yeah.
even from my days in the childhood management platforms where I don't trust it, I want to do it myself type thing. Yeah, no, I definitely see that type of shift in the more positive. Again, understanding that you are not you're not watching, but you're protecting, and you're protecting yourself, you're protecting your staff, and you're protecting your business ultimately with being able to capture those situations. So, in having a resource that, again, it doesn't need to be always 24/7 monitored. It is going to do it. And then if a situation does happen, again, easy to go back and look at. You're able to clip the footage, you can save it, download it, build a folder within Watch Me Grow that will house, those incidents if they should happen. But another shift where we think, we see it going is again with that video coaching, and you're, looking at this footage, and you're not only, it's not reactive.
Yeah.
It's not
Right.
reactive
Right.
anymore. It's proactive. And that's a message we try to deliver in any chance we can, is don't look at it as having cameras as something reactive, because that was back in the day. Now everything's proactive, where you can go in there, look at this footage, and start to see that trends are building. Um,
Mm.
what is an incident continues to happen. Let's go back to the video and look at what are those situations that's building up to it. Is that a teacher's interaction? Is that you don't have enough staff in a room?
Yeah.
So we're starting to see that
The
happen
kids, the
where,
kids getting hungry because it's right before snack time, like all
right.
these things, right? I mean,
Yeah. And it's,
yeah.
we had one situation that we had brought to us, and it was part of our AI, incorporating AI into some of our features. Is we had a lead teacher that was noticing that a teacher was giving kids a device, and while they were trying to tend to something else, and immediately the red flag comes up. Why are you giving kids a device? They shouldn't have a device. But what started to come out from that video is, and again, talking with the teacher to say, hey, we're noticing this. What's kind of what's going on? What's kind of, what do you need that, is making you do this? There was with the amount of children to one teacher, she was giving the students the iPad to keep them occupied while she tended to kids going, to the bathroom.
Mm,
So again, they're doing everything right. They're doing what they can to get the job done. And it,
right.
again, it may not be ideal, but what the end, like what the result, like what was leading up to is they needed some support because there was, you needed kids to come in and out of the bathroom. You got to monitor that. And then, of course, what happens is probably we should add some support in that classroom. So
Yeah.
that's kind of where we're seeing the video going is again, being more proactive than it is reactive.
Well, and also you get a whole additional suite of benefits from a security standpoint. And,
Right.
thinking about, again, is somebody breaking in? Is somebody damaging things? Is there vandalism? We're doing a whole series on, protecting buildings. It's crazy to me, Kevin. 100 times a day in the United States, a vehicle rams into a commercial building. And we've got a whole series with Rob and his team about like protecting our buildings. And unfortunately, the numbers for childcare are pretty dramatic. It's like 1 in 5, 1 in 6 times it's actually a
Yeah.
childcare building that a car runs into. And we happen to be chatting with an owner up in Canada, and he had a very scary situation. Thank goodness the kids were gone for a PD day that particular day, but a vehicle, again, someone hit the gas instead of the brake and right through their childcare program. And he's got the video of it. And he said, Andy, thank goodness I had this video. It saved me so many headaches in dealing with my insurance company because I
Yeah.
was able to, again, just show him exactly what happened. I wasn't at fault. This wasn't fraud. This wasn't anything crazy. But like, again, and you can't really cross-examine the video. It is what it is, right?
Yeah.
So he had a real good factual basis for his insurance claim about what exactly happened and making sure it was legitimate. So I think those are like ancillary benefits that people may not even think about initially, but it is kind of a built-in security and safety and good for insurance tracking too, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, there is, yeah, the benefit of the security, the surveillance, of course, cameras, are going to be there to surveil. And again, having the cameras, in different at parts of the building and throughout the facility is, you may have a playground that is you invested millions in
Mm.
building.
Yeah.
And you're starting to see like, hey, it's starting to be vandalized. Is again, having cameras that can, have eyes out on the playground even after hours. Of course, that's, something to keep in mind.
Well, you mentioned the keywords, and it seems like every conversation I have now comes back to this AI, right? So, what is kind of the industry thinking about it? I mean, you would think with AI paired with video monitoring, boy, you could do crazy stuff about detection and analytics and again, noticing, odd behaviors or cars coming up to the pickup drop off area. I don't know. What are you guys thinking about with AI? Is there a space for that in all this work?
Yeah, absolutely, there is, and it's something that we are utilizing and working on. So we do have a feature that is live right now. And so to just to bring you back a little bit. So with the advances of, computer vision and AI, where again it's going to review incidents, we actually have a machine learning team that is partnered with Watch Me Grow. And those folks are industry leaders throughout ECE. So again, these are folks that have a lot of years and a lot of experience that are continuously working with us to build the best features. So they are watching footage. They are analyzing footage. With AI, you got to kind of teach it everywhere to make it, to make it to what you want. And we have the very best in the industry supporting us in that aspect. So again, I go back to less reactive, more proactive. We're watching where our team is identifying those patterns earlier.
Oh,
Again, to to reduce those situations that things do begin to escalate. Um, the feature that we have out there again, and I'm happy to go in more depth with anybody that's interested or actually wants to see the product in action, is active supervision AI. And what that first slice is capturing events. Now, those events are the camera is able to detect if a adult teacher, staff member is in the room with the children. Now, if there is not an adult or adult figure that is in the classroom, the camera will capture that event, pull it out, actually put it in a separate uh, bucket in the platform. Maybe a bucket's a bad example, but will, pull it, separate it from your ordinary viewing and footage, and start to build out, day by day of any incident that was or any event that was captured. So it can send an alert to a director immediately.
Wow.
You can space it out. Maybe you want it to let you know after 30 seconds or to a minute. So what the camera is doing again is scanning the classroom, and if it notices that there's not an adult figure, it immediately captures that and notifies that. So again, listen, it's happening. You hear about it in the news, or
Yeah.
a child is left unattended. Unfortunately, it happens. Unfortunately, we are seeing it reported to us. Our machine learning team is aware of numerous situations recently that have happened. Now, what with AI, it's still learning in progress. As we go. So there will be times where a teacher, again, is in the room and maybe at the level of the child. Maybe they're on the rug reading a story, or they're sitting with a child in the corner. Yeah, the system's still going to recognize there's not an adult. But what Watch Me Grow allows you to do is, again, with those events, you're able to go in there and tag them. Now, this could be, it's acceptable, then you're teaching it again, that's going to be okay. But what you're also starting to see is teachers or staff members are now flagging that as needs improvement. Now, that is something that they're noticing the teacher could do better or needs some work. So we're starting to be able to tag these events, put them in separate folders. And again, that's when your learning experience and teachable moments start to happen. So that's just the first slice of what we have going on with AI. There's a really, really exciting things to come. So don't want to tease that any, but I got to keep that, but there is, anywhere from being able to track ratio with cameras to some even more and more beneficial things when it comes to, those smart observations and emotional learning. So still stay tuned. A
Wow.
lot of good things coming, but we have the best folks working on it. And we are committed to perfecting this and rolling this out to the industry, in the right way. And when
Yeah,
it's
well, that's
time.
it. I mean, it's really an exciting kind of frontier time right now with this AI,
Right.
and I mean, who knows? It seems like every day it's getting better and better. So,
Yeah.
in a couple of years, my gosh. And again, all in the vein of like, let's use the technology, let's make our jobs easier, not to replace anybody or replace human judgment by any means, but if
Right.
it's another tool that can help us make our programs run more effectively, efficiently, safely, it kind of makes sense to use it, right? I mean, it's interesting what it can
Absolutely.
do. And it sounds like you
Absolutely.
got the right people in the room. Again, this is the
Absolutely.
benefit of a program, a company that knows what early childhood does, and not some other industry just trying to kind of wedge in and tell us,
Right.
what the leading practice is as well. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it's exciting. Well, I have to have you come back on and update us on kind of where the AI is when you have something fun to announce there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. And happy to talk to anybody that has any interest in walking you through that. So it's like having a childhood education expert, part of your staff when it comes to, Watch Me Grow and our capabilities.
Wow. Well, Kev, if folks want to know more about Watch Me Grow, if they want to pick your brain, if they want to get a demo, like what's the best way to get in touch with you all?
Yeah, so this will be my selfless plug for myself here. So no, I appreciate that. Yeah, easiest way to learn more about Watch Me Grow, of course, our website is www.watchmegrow.com. if you'd like to speak with me directly. And again, this is just how we do things. Is it's a conversation. I want to understand your situation, what you have going on at your center. Is there anything missing? It's simply a conversation, what we call a discovery conversation, and then from there we'll build on to what the next steps will be. But best way to get a hold of me, I'll give you my email address. It is Kevin, Kivin .Wright, WRIGHT at watchmegrow.com. And we really look forward to anybody reaching out. Happy to walk you through some of the stuff we talked about. And again, just having a conversation about what we can do and what you have going on in your center. And what helps me is the best to understand your day to day.
Well, that's awesome. And we'll certainly put all that in the show notes as well, and encourage folks to reach out and use you as a resource. I mean, even if you already have cameras, as Kevin mentioned, the nice thing is Watch Me Grow can be layered on top of what you have. And it's really cool how you guys are kind of camera agnostic to many ways, right? So
Right.
It's a really robust system. And I really have enjoyed spending time with you over the years and kind of seeing how it works and the platform that you have, and just the ability to control access so that it's not just
Yeah.
a field day out there, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And thank you, Andy, for having a platform, for me to come on and talk about what Watch Me Grow is doing. And more importantly, thank you for what you do out there for keeping, the folks out there, educated on, what's the safest way to operate. And I really appreciate what you do out there. And I'm happy to say, we enjoy partnering with you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I really appreciate you coming on. This is one of those topics where there's a lot of noise, a lot of misinformation, a lot of kind of hesitation, without a lot of really great resources and conversation around it. I think we did a pretty good job today of kind of cutting through.
Yeah.
This is beyond just Big Brother. This has got some real value and real benefits from the program side, from the administration side, from the parent side. And giving folks some ideas with what this could look like. And I'm super excited about the future, by the way, as well.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
No, absolutely. Yeah, this has been great. I really appreciate the opportunity and, getting past, through a little bit of, what those myths and misconceptions will be of just cameras themselves and what we're doing solely for the early childhood education industry. So super excited to be able to chat more about it.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Kevin. And of course, thank you to everybody listening and watching. We really appreciate you being here. We hope you found this conversation insightful. And please, if you haven't already, subscribe. We're on all the major platforms: YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, on and on and on. You can access it all over at earlychildhoodchats.com. And we look forward to seeing you on another future episode and talking about some other really important topics. So I'll leave it there and say thank you to our guest, Kevin. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you on the next podcast.